yeah, it's official. El Niño is here.
Those temperatures are now easily above the El Niño threshold, and they have been for a few weeks actually.
The pressure, the winds, and also the cloudiness, among other things, are all teaming up to produce, yes, what we now understand as an El Niño.
And this is not just any El Niño. We're in for what some are calling a Godzilla El Niño.
Wait, what's an El Niño?
El Niño means little boy in Spanish, and it's part of a natural weather cycle called the El Niño Southern Oscillation, or ENSO for short. In an El Niño year, waters in parts of the Pacific Ocean become warmer than usual, weakening or reversing the so-called trade winds, which usually blow from east to west.
What we see is that there's basically a blob of warm water, unusually warm, that's been slowly moving from the west of the Pacific, off the Australian coast, towards the South American coastal area.
The warm water brings moist air and wet conditions to the west of the Pacific, while here in Australia, the water is cooler and the weather is drier than normal. El Niños usually happen every 2 to 7 years, and they can increase the risks of bushfires, droughts, and heat waves. While North and South America might experience heavier rainfall and an increased risk of flooding. We measure the strength of an El Niño by water temperatures. If it's more than 2 degrees above average, it's considered very strong, sometimes called a super El Niño or a Godzilla El Niño.
Godzilla, king of the monsters!
And experts say this Godzilla could be the biggest one yet.
So this is the Bureau's modelling for those water temperatures for the rest of this year. And it's predicted to climb from about 1 degree above average now all the way up to about 3 degrees above average during spring, and that would be a record El Niño.
It's not exactly the best news for farmers in states which are already experiencing drier than average conditions. But luckily, a record Godzilla El Niño doesn't guarantee record heat or drought.
Wait, that's good. Oh.
So El Niño doesn't sort of necessarily act as the single trigger or cause of droughts or floods or anything like that, but it sets the conditions up in the atmosphere for excess heat and also flows of moisture around the atmosphere to be available for rainfall when weather events occur.
There are other climate patterns that influence our weather. And while our last El Niño in 2023 and 24 brought record heat, we've seen ones that were technically stronger but didn't affect the weather nearly as much. So we'll have to wait and see how much of a menace this monster weather pattern turns out to be.